So I'm back from my little journey. I've been 3 weeks from home doing workshops, speaking at events, and I'm so glad to be sat at my desk at home talking to you today, because it's not been easy doing this podcast thing on the road. But today I wanted to talk about how I nearly have destroyed myself when building my business, because I think there's something I want to say here, and kind of part of me doesn't want to say it and part of me does. And part of me doesn't want to say it because I'm embarrassed, because I feel a bit awkward about it. But there's been a few times in my business journey where I've not put myself first. And I've speak to so many people who don't do this either. They become servants to their clients, total servants. And it comes from the right place. It comes from the place where you want to do the best you can for people. You want to serve them, deliver great value, be the best you can. And in that process of doing it, you screw yourself over as well. Now, I'm not saying that you, badly treat customers. I'm not saying that at all. But what happens is you don't create the boundaries. You don't create the rules of how you work. And so you end up flogging yourself, going down paths you don't want to go down. And ultimately, you end up in a very miserable place. And actually, customers don't respect you for it. So you work harder and harder and harder and feel like you get less and less positive feedback from customers. And it comes from our eagerness to please, our eagerness to want to help people, that scuppers, one, our boundaries and our respect, don't respect us, don't listen to us. But the other thing that happens is we run ourselves into the ground and go, how did I end up here? How did I end up here? I never wanted to be here. But those little compromises we do along the way really scupper us and fuck us up. And I'm going to talk about two that have happened to me. And I've learned from them, and they're still very difficult. You still have to learn from them. And I want to talk about client-pleasing habits. You know, when somebody joins my team, and this sounds brutal, and if you're a prospective client listening to me, take this with the right sentiment. When our team, somebody joins me and joins Maverick, I say this very statement. There is a difference between keeping a client happy and getting a client the result. And I want to explain this for a moment, because some of you will also resonate with this and you'll also see it. When you're an expert, when you're selling your expertise in any way, shape or form, people are buying into you and buying your expertise and your know-how to actually get a result. They want an end result. Well, often the reason why they're hiring you, whatever it is, coaching, social media marketing, it doesn't matter what it is, they're hiring you to get to a result. The reason they need you is because they've not been able to achieve it on their own. So far, whatever outcome you're going to help them achieve, they've not been able to do it on their own. But sometimes, if you are not confident in yourself, and sometimes if you don't have your own boundaries, sometimes if you maybe need the money, so if you need the money, this will also get to you, that you shift into a mentality of, I've got to keep the client happy. Now, there's nothing wrong with having happy clients, right? Nothing wrong at all. But happy clients, for me, comes second to the result. Because if I get the client the result, they're happy. They're really happy. But if I put their client happiness over the result, they're never going to be happy. And what I'm actually doing is trying to keep the peace. So making a client happy is a false economy. Getting a client a result is the true economy. So why am I telling you all this? Because I've had scenarios when I was running a marketing agency. Well, I've had scenarios where the client would sign up for a service. We'd talk about the outcome they wanted to achieve. We'd agree a plan of action, and then they would change what they wanted to do. And in my eagerness to please the client, I would go along with their amendments and suggestions, even when I thought they were a bad idea. And I would kind of tell them in a kind of soft way and go along with them and do everything they asked. Everything they asked. So I'm in client-pleasing mode. I do everything they ask. We finish up the project, finish up the campaign, and it fails. And the client turns around to me and says, "We're really disappointed, Dean. We hired you for this result, and we didn't get it." And then an almighty row breaks out about, well, you asked for this, and we did it. You asked for this, and we did it. You asked for the... You can't win. You cannot win trying to please clients. It's like, imagine a doctor who was motivated and got rewarded and paid by keeping you happy. They would prescribe whatever they thought. When you walked in after Googling, you've been on Google, and you figured out you've got X, Y, and Z, they would agree with you and start giving you the treatment for it. It's madness. But sometimes we end up doing this, and it's often because we're agreeable people. We have an agreeable personality. It can be confidence, but it can also be short of money. Short of money. And in my case, as points during my marketing agency, it was all three. And so this client-pleasing behavior actually sets you up for major issues. Because sometimes what happens then is the client doesn't get the result, you feel bad. Even though you did everything possible, you feel bad and go, oh, maybe I should give them some money back, or maybe I should work with them for longer for free, or maybe the client wants to keep working with you, but so you end up giving a reduced rate, but the client just won't do what you've been told. Or actually, in most cases, it's not the client won't do what you're told, it's you're too compliant. And for most times, clients are hiring experts. They want experts to get the result. And you have to give your clients some tough love. And that takes inner guts. It takes summoning up the best of you to tell the client, if you do this, or if we go down this route, and it doesn't work for you, who's responsible? And when you have that conversation with the client, and they realize that you're saying, I'll do what you say, but I'm not responsible for the outcome, they then start to listen to you as the expert. And this takes real inner strength to go, I'm not going to just please clients short term. I'm going to please them long term. And that takes, you can't always pick the right clients. I've had clients who come to me and they say, I want to really thrive and do well on LinkedIn. And every week they're talking about doing something different on LinkedIn. Every week they're going, I'll do this week. Oh, that's not working, so I'll do this. It's impossible to help them. So you have to turn around to them and say, if you don't settle on what you're doing, I can't help you. And you have to have that boldness. And I wish I'd learned this a lot earlier, because this has cost me so much in terms of wasted time, inner pain and frustration, and the kind of doubt it gives you when you go along with a client, do exactly what they say, and then they blame you when something goes wrong. And that's my own fault. It's my own fault, because I was the one who was willing to go along with their mad idea and didn't give them the disclaimer. I'm happy to, if you're paying me, I'll do what you say. But if you were going to hold me to an outcome, I would definitely not advise to do what you're doing. And it takes some inner strength to be able to have that conversation. And people will respect you for it. But very often we won't do it. And it's confidence. It's people-pleasing attitude. But also it might be money. If you need the money, you go along because you don't want to have that confrontation because you need their money. So there's all of those things rolling round. And when I'm talking to our team and new people come on board, I say this: a client is paying us for an outcome. We will move heaven and earth for the outcome. But if the client starts to ask you to do stuff counter to the outcome, you have to tell them, we don't think this will work. We'll do it if you want us to, but we can't guarantee an outcome. And we say that to clients. It's hard, it's uncomfortable, but we have to do it. I want to share a story of how this affected me. Client-pleasing behavior nearly sent me bankrupt. I nearly ended up homeless and bankrupt because I was flogging myself for clients. And because I was so eager to please, and it wasn't the client's fault, it was my fault. I was so eager to please, so eager to serve. Part of it because I really wanted to make a difference. Part of it because I was a people pleaser. Part of it because I need the money. And I ended up working for not even minimum wage. I was almost broke, almost bankrupt, serving clients, and I could not make it work because of this people-pleasing behavior. And it impacted into my marketing. It was how I was delivering for clients. And I ended up realizing, hang on a minute, I feel like, you know that saying, nice guys always finish last? I felt exactly like that. I'm doing everything to help people, putting all the effort in, and still not making headroom. Until I realized, no, this fucking business works for me too. This is about me. I started this business for me. And this sounds strange because some people listening to this will probably get upset. I started my business for me. I have a mission I want to achieve. I have a goal I want to achieve. And so the business works for me, not the other way around. Part of my business is delivering for my clients the bits I want to do. And I sell what I want to do. And I don't sell what I don't want to do. Now, this sounds like common sense. You'd be surprised how many people I meet when I'm speaking at an event, they come up to me and talk to me and they say, I'm totally trapped. I'm totally trapped. I'm running a business. I'm not making great money, but I'm not making no money. I've got clients, but I'm not happy. And there's a conversation I had with a client, and we ended up not working together. We did a bit of work, and then we decided we weren't going to work together. And this client was we had a totally honest conversation about how unhappy this client was in their life. They were in the technology and software business, really unhappy. They felt trapped. They were stuck in their business. Their life was organized within an inch of its life, but they felt like their clients weren't respecting them. They were trying to better themselves and change the way they were doing. But for 15 years, they'd felt like this. And I said, you just got to get to a point where you go, I'm fucking done with this. I'm fucking done doing it this way. And you have to reach that point where you go, I'm prepared to tear everything up. Because until you get there, your boundaries are just being pushed and pushed and pushed. And not by your clients, by you. You are moving the goalposts for yourself. Because what you're doing mentally is looking at the greater good. The greater good is, I need money to pay the bills. The greater good is, I don't want conflict. The greater good is, I want the client to be happy. These are all greater goods. Unfortunately, if you put them above what you want to, you end up in a situation where you constantly compromise and sacrifice for the greater good, and you end up trapped. Clients don't respect you. You can't get results for clients because you're not prepared to say, this is my way. This is how I do it. If you don't like that, you're not the client for me. That's where it starts. It starts with, well, this client's going to pay me £10,000, but I'm going to have to do something I don't really want to do. But it's £10,000, isn't it? And that's where it starts. Then it starts with, client's going to tell me what to do, and I'm just going to go along with it because they paid me a lot of money. Then it's, oh, well, the client's telling me exactly how to do my job, and I know it's a bad idea. Well, I'll just follow their instructions because, I don't want to upset them. And that's how it starts. And it progressively gets worse and worse and worse. And again, it's not the client's fault, because the client, if you say to them, this is the way I work, they'll probably respect it and say, yeah, we'll follow you, because we want the outcome. We want the result. And if you're telling me I have to follow your way to get the result, they'll do it. But when you compromise the results, you compromise your financial well-being, you compromise your happiness, you compromise everything about you until eventually you are just paid to do as you're told in your own business. And I'd not done it for 15 years. But my client, who I ended up couldn't work with because they could not escape it. Mentally, they couldn't get out of it. Because the fear of, I'm going to have to tear some things up. And that might damage me, but that might ruin stuff. I might lose my home. I might not be able to pay my mortgage. My client's not running that business anymore. Not running anymore. Business is over. And that's the reality. That's what happens. So if you really, really want to learn something from this episode, it's like, I can remember running a business and friends telling me, Dean, it must be great running your own business, no boss and everything. And I go home and I'm like, I hate this. I absolutely hate this. I wish I had a job. And you know how bad it is when you start thinking, how cool must it be to just show up, do a shift at a supermarket, stack shelves and do all that stuff, go on the till and then just go home. That's where I got to, because I was not willing to set my own boundaries about how I work with people. I was not willing to be the doctor and say, no, that's wrong. It's not that. We're doing this. This is the treatment we're going to do. This is what will get this is what will fix the problem. I was prepared to be the guy who will take the money because I needed the money. I was the guy who was prepared to people please. I was the guy who was ready to compromise for the greater good. And then you reach a point of, for me, 3-4 years of doing the greater good and going, fuck this. I'm not doing this anymore. I am not doing this anymore. No way. If I'm going to run my business, I'm going to run it my way. And that's when I became at my most powerful. And that's when I became the clearest on what I really wanted. And some of you are probably going, Dean, what does this have to do with LinkedIn, which is your specialist subject? Because if you can't do this internally, God help you trying to do this on LinkedIn. If you can't say, do you know what? I don't care if some people don't like me. I don't care if some people don't buy from me because they won't do it my way. It's a big wide world. And it comes to the fundamental view of how you see the world. If you believe that the world is small, if you believe the world is lacking in resources, if you believe all of those things, it facilitates you being a people pleaser for money, professional people pleaser. Because what you will do is do anything to get the money. Now, some of you will go, I won't do anything to get the money. Well, if you'll compromise your professional beliefs, you'll do anything for money. And so it starts with, if you see the world as short on money because you're short on money, or if you see the world short of clients because you're short of clients, you will compromise. Starts with our worldview. And my worldview was, there's not much money in the world. I grew up, I'm the son of a coal miner. I grew up in a little town surrounded by mining towns, and we didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have the fancy branded stuff. I had the cheapo, nasty stuff. So I fundamentally believed there was a shortage of money. And that translated into my adulthood. That translated into clients and getting clients and feeling honored to get the client and excited because they were so rare, like rare diamonds. When I realized actually they're everywhere and that the world is not short of money. Even in a recession, the world is not short of money. And when I realized people are paying me for an outcome, I'm damned as well going to give them the outcome, whether they like it or not. I'm gonna be honest, straightforward, give them a kick up the bum, and if they don't like it, tough. And that's earned me more respect and more clients since I've taken this approach. But it was ruining me. A kind of people-pleasing business mentality. So a bit like, it wasn't kind of people-pleasing like, I'll just say yes to anything. It was more insidious than that. It was like, I need money. I need clients. Here's a client with money. Oh, I'll give a little bit. And a lot of the clients didn't respect me. And they didn't value my opinion. They didn't follow my opinions because they were suggesting their own. Because I wasn't firm enough. Because I wasn't strong enough internally. And as soon as I started to realize this and started to say what I think, respectful, and I'm not talking about abusing clients here or being rude, but about saying, no, this is what we signed up to do. If you don't like that, then maybe we can't work together. Or if you want to do this, I don't think it's the best way to do it. But if you want to do it, I will help you do it. But when we finish this project, do not blame me or hold me accountable for any of the results. As long as that's understood, I will work my damnedest to help you make this happen. You'd be surprised how many clients would say, I understand that, Dean, and I want your help on it. Fine. Or they will say to me, Dean, I respect you for saying that. What would you advise? And that comes from inner respect for yourself. And that shortage, that fear that there's a lack, a shortage, is what drives this. It's like you've got a couple of different tensions. You've got the tension of what you believe, your values, your principles, your know-how, your expertise. That's one principle. Then you've also got the competing financial principle, your well-being, your bills, your home, your mortgage, all of that stuff. So there's another one, another tension you've got. Then you've got your client and what your standards are for a client and what you want to do and all that kind of stuff. And as soon as one of those pillars, if you've got loads of money coming, if you're making tons and tons of money, you can be very, very picky. And people say this, oh, well, if I had lots of clients, I could be a lot more picky. What I've found is the other way around. If I'm very picky, I get lots of clients. This weird thing about exclusivity and about if you are more picky, if you make it, I'm not saying make it hard for people to be a client, but if you have a criteria, if you start to set standards and boundaries and make yourself a little bit more exclusive, it takes guts, it takes balls, but actually it makes you more attractive. It makes people respect you more when people see that you're not needing them. And it took me a long time to work this out. And it cost me a lot in emotional energy, time, agony, the works, to realize that I could move heaven and earth to please a client. They could do everything they say, and it still wouldn't make them happy because they want the result. And I'd confuse happiness with the result. It's not the same. And so I focus on client results. Sometimes that means I don't get a client. Sometimes that means I have to say tough things. But on the whole, I am happier because I'm doing what I value and what I love. I'm not getting myself into that rut where I go, well, how did I get here? Anymore. Life is too short to spend 2 years, 3 years running around in circles because we are not confident enough to stand for what we want. And clients, think about it. The reason why business works is because it creates a win-win. And the win-win is I get to live the life the way I want, make the money I want by helping clients get what they want. They pay me money to get what they want, and that money helps me get what I want. That's the value exchange. But if you are not steadfast in what you want, even if the client gives you their money, it's a lose. So the client could win and you could lose, even if they pay you, because you are not clear on what your fundamental rules are, what really matters to you, what is the top thing that makes this work for you. Your boundaries, but more importantly, the goals are what really matters to you. And you should take on clients and market your services to create the win for you and the win for them. And very often we do the other thing. How can I create a win for them? And don't actually think about what is the win for me. What do I really want? What do I really want from this thing? Because if you don't do that, you end up creating a win-lose and you lose. You either end up, well, there's loads of ways you could end up, but you could end up with loads of money and no time, right? Miserable. You could end up absolutely flogging yourself for no money. I've done that too. It's not just a case of, oh, you get money or not time. I've ended up with no money and no time. So you have to get really, and this sounds horrible if you're a client listening to this, but take the advice, because this applies to your business too. I am here to create a win-win. And if I don't define my win, what I want from this deal, I will be very unhappy. And when I get that deal over the line, I hold to my win and deliver their win. That's what the transaction's about. It's about me helping a client get a result and getting a result for myself. That's what we're doing. We're creating win-wins. But sometimes we're silly. We're stupid. We don't define our own wins, and so we end up working harder. We people please and drift off what we want and drift off what our objective is. And we end up miserable business owners. Miserable. And I've been there. It's not nice. It really isn't nice. And I would advise you, if you can, do not get to the point where it's like, fuck this, I'm done. Because some people get there, Dean got there by going, I'm rewriting the rules. And I ripped everything up and said, I'm rewriting the rules. And I was prepared to endure some pain to get to where I wanted to be. I was prepared to go, maybe I have to rethink how I'm doing things. And I was prepared, because of where I'd got to endure some financial pain from that. But some people won't want to endure financial pain. Actually, the same reason you end up in the mess. Because you don't want to avoid financial pain, you'll compromise everything else. Well, you reach a point where you're so done with people pleasing and not creating the win for yourself. You go, I'm done with this. I just want money. I want the financial stability. I want peace. And so you get rid of the business and get a job. Seen that happen many, many times. Because people will, in your 20s, you're pretty reckless and, you can live with family. You don't have major responsibilities. But as you get that bit older, you have responsibilities, family, children, homes, all that stuff. And it becomes harder to go, screw this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to do something different. It has to be a breaking point. Whereas when you're younger, you don't have that. So what are those red lines? What are those wins that really matter to you? Because if you haven't got them, if they're not written down, if they're not crystal clear, you end up compromising. And don't be guilty. Don't feel guilty about going, this is what I want to do, and I want to do it my way and this way. And you take on clients based on where you are, what you want to achieve. That's how you build. That's how you stay happy. And clients sign up because they get who you are, they get your process, and want the result. And then your job is not to compromise in terms of your values and your win list to deliver for that client. And maybe I'm just rambling here, but coming back to that client, 15 years compromising for the greater good of financial security. 15 years. They were very unhappy, very frustrated, very anger was there. And we did some work together, but we didn't ultimately work together. But they were very, very angry. And I heard from them recently. They're not doing the business anymore because enough was enough. And they made the decision of financial security. There's a less stress way of getting that financial security by working for somebody else. There's an easier way of getting that financial security. And that's where we all end up. We end up, if we just pursue financial security, if we're not confident, we'll compromise, we'll people please or client please, and we'll do things for money. Horrendous thing, do things for money. Even though we need money, it's a really bad way to do things. And you end up trapped until you're prepared to kind of rip everything off and start again or reformat. So I wouldn't normally say this in a podcast, but maybe you need to start thinking about what are your non-negotiables? What are your rules? What are the things that you're not going to compromise on? Both in terms of how you do your business, how you deliver for your clients, how you live your life. You need to start negotiating those, writing them down and making them the non-negotiables so that you build a business that works for you, not the other way around. And I've done that, and it's really easy to do. In fact, I've done it a few times through pragmatism, being reasonable. You end up compromising. Horrific. Do not do it. So let me tell you what I did. So I reached a point where I went, I've had enough. I'm done. I'm done with this. I've had totally enough. And I just stopped everything and said, this is what we're doing now. And set those rules and just literally turned the ship. That's the advantage of being a business owner. You can turn the ship. And I enjoyed the fight to change things more, even though there was more risk and more uncertainty. I enjoyed it because I was pushing towards something I actually wanted, where I was before tolerating stuff for the greater good. It was like, why should I? Why do I have to tolerate for the greater good? When does this greater good become me? And that's where I was, until eventually I just went, no, we're not doing that. And then I was fighting for what I really wanted. I was motivated and I was pushing and I felt the energy because I suddenly wasn't just going, a little bit of my soul die a bit more as I took another project on that I didn't want to do. It's no way to live. And when you sign up to be a business owner, you signed up to be the master of your own destiny. You signed up to stand by yourself. You signed up to say, I trust myself more than an employer. And something happens to us where difficult times, maybe inner insecurities come out, and we start to conform again. We start to behave like an employee. We people please. We adapt. We make decisions for the greater good. And then we realize that greater good wasn't me. That greater good wasn't me. And I don't want that. And I'd encourage you to think about this. Reflect. Go away, think about this and go, how am I going to be totally unreasonable about what I want from this? Totally unreasonable. This is my business. It's not designed to be somebody else's win-win. It's my win. This is for me. What do I want from this? And be brutally honest with yourself and say, this is what I want. This is my business. Therefore, I have full permission to say this is what I want. And then your job is to create a win for somebody else out of your win. I prosper and I help somebody else at the same time. That's what this is about. That's what this business thing is about. But we lose sight of it through all sorts of reasons. But it's like, be totally unreasonable. It's your business. If you want to do work 2 days a week, how are you going to do it? Build that plan. If you want to work 7 days a week because you love it, build that plan. If you want to work directly with clients one-to-one, don't believe all the bullshit on the internet. You can do that if you want to. It's your business. If you don't want to work with people one-to-one, you don't have to. It's your business. I think these guardrails of what do I really want become so important because every day on the internet we are presented with ideas and opportunities and all of this other stuff thrown at us that potentially could say, hey, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. How do you decide what to do if you don't have some written guardrails of what you really want? You just, again, I need money. Oh, I'll do this because it's for the greater good and I need money. Or I want to avoid these difficult conversations, so I'll go along with this. It's no way to live. It's no way to build a business. I know. Nearly cost me my business. My stupidity nearly cost me my business. And it doesn't have to cost you yours. Start being totally unreasonable. It's your business. It serves you. And then out of it serving you, you create the win-wins for other people.